Welcome, everyone, to the Spirit of EQ podcast. I'm Eric Pennington, and with me, as always, is Jeff East. Hi, Jeff. How are you?
Hi, Eric, and everybody out there.
Hey, Jeff, you and I had talked offline probably a couple of weeks ago, and you had brought up to me about this prayer of Saint Francis.
Mm-hmm.
And I was kind of familiar with it. And then you told me that there was this kind of a updated, disruptive version out there. And
Yeah.
it really kind of got me thinking. And today we're going to kind of explore that. And by the way, for those in the audience, we are not going to be reading poems and prayers to you today, because there's a much bigger meaning around this than just that. So, Jeff, can you maybe for the audience talk a little bit about what is the prayer of St. Francis?
Yeah, the prayer of St. Francis is something that, as I've said before, I've been involved in a prison ministry for 30-some years. And I was introduced in this, and actually there's a part of the weekend that we have where we actually sing this. And for the life of me, I cannot remember the melody because it's been a while since I've been in there. But anyway, the prayer of St. Francis is about, the first line is, Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. And it talks about that, of becoming a calming influence. And we've talked about that, how important that is as a person. That's a really big way to make a difference. If it's just one-on-one, if you can be that person that's calming someone down that's in distress of some kind, or we've all been in meetings that start to go off the rail. If you're the person that can bring the meeting back on track and keep it peaceful, that's really important. Just all different ways. And if you can imagine what it's like for the residents of a prison, the importance of having the ability to bring peace to a situation, it can literally be a life-saving thing.
Yeah. Because, maybe if I could take just off on a little bit of a tangent, Jeff, and maybe you've addressed this in prior episodes, but what's the purpose behind this prison ministry that you were involved in?
It's called the Kairos. It's called the Kairos Prison Ministry, Kairos. It's been around since the 60s. It has its root in something called the Catholic Cursillo, if somebody wants to look that up. But it's a little bit different than a lot of the ministries go in. When we go into a prison, this sounds strange, we want the prison leaders. We don't want the people that are already going to church. We want the gang leaders, those people, the strong, independent guys, because if we can make a difference in their life, they can make a difference in the compound. And the whole idea of this is to make the compound, the prison, a different place. So we go in on a Thursday night and through a Sunday with these prison leaders. And we basically, since it is a Christian ministry, it's another way to look at it as a short course in Christianity. The basics of the faith, we're very upfront about it. We never ask these guys to make decisions, altar calls and things like that. But
and I would imagine no one is forced to go to this weekend, right?
No. They are picked by the prison staff, but asked to go. No, nobody is ever forced to do this. And we have some hooks. We bring in home cooked meals. That is a big draw. We're called the Cookie Ministry because we bring in dozens of cookies for the whole prison. But that's okay. If they say they're coming just for the cookies and food, we go, okay, just listen to what we have to say. But then there's follow-up.
Gotcha.
The guys are encouraged to do this kind of stuff. So
gotcha. All right. So I did that. I took you off on a tangent, and I appreciate you kind of opening that up a bit more. But so with this prayer of St. Francis, I remember you had told me that you had found, or you knew of one or something or another that was kind of a different take on it. Can you talk a little bit about that? And we're talking about St. Francis of Assisi, right? Okay.
Yeah, that's who it's attributed to.
Okay.
Like who knows for sure, but
Right. Much time has gone on, right?
Yes,
Since
who knows?
his day. Right.
So the author is unknown on this. It's called the Reverse Prayer of Saint Francis. Now
Okay.
that sounds weird when you look at it on the face. Well, why would you want to be not bring peace?
Right.
Why would you want to cause disruption and things like that? But this is done in a very interesting way. So the first line is, "Dear Lord, make me a channel of disturbance." Where there is apathy, let me provoke. So what this prayer is, as you go through the whole thing, what this prayer is saying, or this, you can call it a poem if you don't want to use it as a prayer. You can take the religious part of it out, and it's still just as powerful. What it is saying is, you sometimes need to make a difference by a disturbance.
Interesting.
By provoking, making somebody think something that they've never thought before, or move them to an action that they didn't think they would do.
Jeff, I've got to interrupt you, because what's flowing through my mind is COVID pandemic.
Yeah.
I maybe there are some people out there who saw it coming. I didn't. But it certainly shifted the ground that we were walking on, and it did demand of us to think differently, to ask questions that maybe we weren't interested in asking before it came upon us. So that's very interesting, and that's just one example, right, of what that could be.
And then where it says, "Where there is apathy, let me provoke," and that may be a one-on-one thing. You may need to provoke someone to get them to move ahead, or to.
Yeah. So when we talk about provoke, and I know that we can get into the language almost to a fault, but typically when you hear provoke, you provoked me to anger. You provoked me to, but it can be a positive too, right?
Yeah, you could, you see somebody in a situation where they have the power to change this situation that they're not liking, but they don't realize it. So you may provoke them to consider, or provoke them maybe just to shut you up, to take that power and change something that they can change themselves.
So, maybe a great example in my head anyway, right, is, when someone asks you a powerful question. Let's say that you're in this frustrating situation or relationship, and someone says, "How would it look if you decided not to get angry?" That would provoke you to going, wow, potentially, right? I mean, I know there's more than one way you could respond to that, but I know for me, it would probably get me to that place of, well, I guess it would probably go better in our conversation if I didn't get angry. So I just want to kind of unwrap this a bit to say that is a way of provoking. Provoking isn't always just pushing somebody's buttons and trying to push them to act in a certain way.
It could be a nudge.
Yeah, but it's still a provoking. So, okay.
All right. Where there is compliance, let me bring questioning.
Ooh, the 4 in me just says I like that.
Where there is silence, may I be a voice. In my top 2 or 3 songs favorites of all time is "On the Turning Away" by Pink Floyd.
Yeah.
And that's what it's about. On the turning away from the pale and downtrodden. It's paying attention to what's going on. And there are times when going with the flow or complying is not really the thing we should be doing.
Right.
And
that requires a lot of courage, though, right?
Right. And that's, let's look at the basics of emotional intelligence that we use. Anger can be this thing that's going to make you question. You see a situation and you go, I don't like that. So I'm going to question it. Why are we doing it this way? Is there some other way we can do it? Is this even worth doing? Whatever you think about, just question it. This, we talked about, no, my mind just went blank. Our
Well,
core
while you
beliefs.
get back to that, when you get back to that, which your mind
Okay.
just like, I gotta ask the question that you brought up. In some ways, when I hear this, Jeff, I think about it connecting to curiosity, and it's a vibrant form of curiosity.
Right.
Because anybody can get angry at a situation or the way someone's being treated and how that connects and whatnot. But it's another thing to get angry and begin to intentionally asking those powerful questions again. And I find that if I start with questions, it builds a ground of trust on that other person's part with me, so that when the opportunity arises for me to talk about why I'm angry about the situation, they're more likely to be in a listening frame as well.
Right. And I like that you mentioned powerful questions. That's one of the keys to when we do debriefs or when we're doing coaching with someone, is we need to ask those powerful questions, but we need to